make the problem in the bucket that you have decided not to list down and just ask you to think more and irritate you, and probably an irritated candidate would tend to make mistakes, and then the interviewer will simply point at the mistakes and not hire you. But if you're going along a customer journey map, then it's very difficult for the interviewer to point out a logical flaw or point out the place where you missed it, because it's right there on the paper. And another interviewer feels that you're somewhere close to the answer, then the interviewer will direct you and ask you to think around a particular point of the customer journey map, and that will help you simply solve the problem. So these are the two reasons why I think a listing is an approach which will not work in interviews. And I think the main reason is that listing is not the reason why the consult firms are hiring folks around. I have found myself struggling in tree-based approaches. What can I do for it? I think uh, there's nothing better than practice. You have to practice. I mean, when I started out doing case prep, I was absolutely bad at doing cases, and I used to not make exhaustive trees. I used to end up in listing, but over time, I improved through the process. I understood, I learned from the way others were solving cases, and I absorbed them in my own way of doing cases. I absorbed them in my own style of doing cases. I think the simple way of improving your skills is by practicing. And I think a good 2 or 3 month practice would make you an expert enough to become an interviewer after that point in time. I found myself struggling. Since you said that consulting firms tend to hire people with heavy institutional tags in the profile, how does a person who lacks the approach get a consulting job? Yeah. So essentially, you need to understand that uh, whether we like it or not, there tends to be a certain kind of an hierarchy even in the consulting firms. There are consulting firms which are regarded as more elitist per se, and so you can always start if you feel that you do not have that institutional tie. You can always start with consulting firms that are maybe not the top the top end ones. For example, you can start so you can maybe avoid the MVPs and you can start from strategy, and there is 80K. You can go about working for niche or boutique consulting firms which tend to not be so much more focused uh, on tags, etc. Or you can go about working for the big four, etc., and work in the consulting domain. And then you can always make switch in case you really want to do that to other firms as you grow up in your career trajectory. The second way is obviously going to go about them is to get admitted to one of these institutions, etc. In case you're an undergrad, or if you're still an undergrad, then you can think about programs like the YIF from where, which are target schools for these consult firms. You can try IIMs, you can try B schools like SPJ and MDI, etc., where from where some of these consult firms tend to hire. So I think these are the two ways which you can go about interviewing with the consult firms. What do you mean by buckets? Bucket is simply so in case you know trees. So over the top is your problem statement. Then you break down the problem statement into two buckets or simply two parts. For example, if you take talking about profits, profits is essentially composed of profits is simply revenues minus the cost. The first bucket is revenue, and the second bucket is cost. The revenues can be further broken down into buckets that consist of number of products that are being sold. So it's the product type, number of products sold into price per product. So essentially, it's a summation of that. So you can make three buckets by using that. So essentially, then you can figure out in which of these buckets does the problem lie. So that's what I meant by bucketing. By listing, I simply mean, example, I tell you the particular factory is suffering from lower revenues, and then you tell me, okay, so this suffering from lower revenues, maybe the product has become bad and therefore the revenues have gone down. I'll say no. Okay, so maybe the products have changed, therefore it's gone down. I'll say no. Okay, maybe there's a competitor in the field, therefore the sales have gone down. So essentially, when you start giving me reasons and not how you've reached the reason, you're going to listing method and not going in a structured manner. So that's what's meant by listing. Cool. So I've dealt with most of the questions in the comment section. In case you have more questions, write them down or simply ask them about. Next question, can you talk a bit about case study competitions? How do you find about the crash reports, and are there prerequisites for them? Generally, they'll tend to have prerequisites such as either you should be an undergrad if it's an undergrad case competition, or you should be in a postgrad, or you should be an MBA candidate if it's a MBA case study competitions. You can simply one way to find them would be simply a Google search. There are a lot of websites which list down case study competitions that come about. There are websites such as Youth Hub, uh, OA Opportunities, etc., which also tend to list out case prep competitions. You can go to the websites of major B schools, etc., which will show you the list of case prep case competitions that they tend to do. And obviously, most of the B schools in India, IMA, BC, Lucknow, MDI, SPJ, and FMS have their own case competitions. So you need not just go for the international ones. If you're an undergrad student, you can happily go for the ones that are conducted domestically as well. Okay, does cold mailing also work to get interviews at MBB for undergrads? I mean, if you belong to one of the target schools, then it does work. Some of these firms have very strict hiring policies for undergrad where they hire only from the target schools. For example, Bain hires from Stephens, IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay, if I'm not wrong. So does McKinsey. So if you belong to these target schools, it does help. But if you don't, then it's very difficult for cold mailing to help. But cold mailing doesn't cost money. You can always cold mail them to check if it's working out. If it works out, it's great. If it doesn't, it costs no harm. Uh, is there a way to prepare for case studies on your own? Where can I find a case partner to prepare with? I think finding case partners is no one but simply your own friends who are also planning to prepare for consultant interviews. You can uh, join Google groups or etc. Or even here on a platform like this where there are other people interested in case prep, you can simply get their numbers, simply talk to them and get the numbers and maybe do case prep on call in case you can't find. Obviously, in the current pandemic, you can't go about meeting people and doing case prep with them. You can do them on calls. You can do them with other people who are interested in case prep. So essentially, even the interviewer has something to learn from the case prep. It's not just that the interviewee is learning. Interviewers learn as much as what interviewees are learning. So anyone who is interested in doing case prep or is interested in appearing in consultancy interviews is a good case partner to prepare with. Solo, I would suggest you to avoid because then you won't be able to understand what mistakes you're committing, and you'll simply be live in a bubble where you assume you've done case prep, but essentially you will have a lot of loopholes which you yourself won't be able to understand. Hmm. Tips for building teams, I think just go for people who are motivated, who are as enthusiastic as you are about doing case prep. Doing it with people who are not enthusiastic, people who are just doing it as a time pass will not help because they'll tend to drop out in a week or so and jeopardize your own case prep. So go with people who are enthusiastic, go with people who are really keen and interested in this particular field because they'll only stick with you till the end and help you through the case prep process. Is the recording available? Because I joined a little late, I think that's a question that I won't have an answer to. Jatin should probably answer that. Will the recording be available for this one or no?
Yes, to those who have missed the session, we will shortly upload the recordings on YouTube. I hope I was audible.
Cool. Does someone else have a question regarding case prep? In case you're seated, you can simply ask if you, or you can type it down.
So, to those who are seated, I think if they don't have any questions, so if you'd like to just give a glimpse of another, if you have any problem, case study problem that you came across, if you'd like to give a glimpse into that, it'll be awesome.
Cool. So I'll take maybe another. If there are no questions, I'll just deal with the questions first. What are the important trees to keep in mind for preparing for case? I think uh, there is no exhaustive set of trees that you need to keep in mind. I mean, every case prep case will throw you a new set of trees. I've come across cases where no standard case prep helped me solve it. I mean, I prepared cases for 3 months, and all 3 months of case prep was I came across none of these trees before. So, I mean, case prep books do list a set of trees. Go through that. Develop. The important thing is that you develop a logical flow of thinking rather than just mugging up trees. So do as many trees as possible, but depend on your logical rigor or your logical strength for solving cases in an interview. Which MBA subjects would UG would issue would wait? Which MBA subjects would UG should learn to face consulting interviews better? I don't think any subjects help per se in solving any cases. Having some idea of finance KPIs might help because sometimes uh, finance, some cases might have a finance angle where you need to tell them EBITDA margins or maybe some profitability matrices, etc., or some ratios, etc. So having a bit of grasp over some financial matrices might help, but other than that, I don't think any subject helps per se. Cool. So there are no questions anymore. So I'll just take maybe 5 minutes to talk about another case. Let me think about it. Yeah, I'll talk about the revenues case that I was talking before. So I was asked to I was asked to help decipher why the revenues of a mall are going down. So how I went about it was I decided to break down the revenue streams of the particular mall, so where the revenues are coming from. And then I went about each bucket understanding if the revenues of that particular bucket is affected. For example, rental, food, etc. And I made a quite logical tree, which I don't remember right now. So I broke down each of these buckets, and then I went about asking which particular bucket which particular bucket uh, has been affected with the current scenario, and I narrowed down that the particular bucket that was being affected was the income sharing agreement from the food courts. And then I went about then I made the consumer journey map of the customer as he goes about going to the food court and eating food. So I started with him entering into the mall, finding about the food court, going up to the food court, reading the menu, placing his order, eating his food, paying for it, and then leaving. So I made a very exhaustive list of the consumer journey map, and then under each bucket, I was understanding that whether, for example, reaching the food court. So I asked whether the lift has broken down, or whether reaching the food court has become difficult than before. So it was very necessary that you broke it down into these buckets and analyzed whether there was problem under each bucket and gave the interviewers some examples of the problems that might exist and why do you think those problems are important, and then asking the interviewer whether that problem exists or not through the entire customer journey map. And then then towards the end of the particular journey map, when the interviewer was satisfied that I have done enough of work, he said, yeah, the problem is in this particular bucket. And then I said, okay, this is the problem. And then the interview ended on me giving some recommendations to solve that particular problem. The problem revolved around the fact that the food court had changed the way way they accept payments, and they had stopped taking cash, and they were only accepting digital payments, which forced many local consumers to not eat at the food court anymore. So that was the particular problem, and I identified it through a set of through the entire consumer journey map and teach the payment process where the interview pointed out, yeah, the problem was here, and then we solved the particular case. So that's how I went about solving that particular case. Yeah, so that was the other case I could probably share with. Uh, yeah, so there are around 10 minutes left, so that's more or less what I had to share with you guys. So, in case any of you have questions, then maybe we can take it in the next 2 or 3 minutes. Else, if there are no questions, then we can wrap up the session.
Ishwar, I think we have some questions posted down below recently.
Yeah, so, okay. In addition to case interview prep, what else should we learn? Practices engineering that's to get a job at MBB. Most of the MBB interviews have a HR component, and then they have a case component. So case component is more the technical part of it. HR component, they'll ask you about your skills, what you've done before, They'll ask you about your CV. So it's very important that you have some spikes or you have some great points on your CV to get those interviews, because essentially that's a very good way to show the interviewers that you've been a motivated person so far in your life and you'll continue to do so in your job as well. So I think what I suggest you to do is develop a very, very good CV, because essentially that's what will carry you through till the interview, and in the interview will carry you through the HR rounds. Yeah, I think with respect to skills, I think you need to be a good communicator. You need to be a person who can understand people well. You need to be a person who has a good logical rigor to your arguments. You should be a person who should be motivated and ready to work hard, because consulting will involve long hours and a very difficult travel journey for sure. So I think these are a couple of skills that you need to have. Mm, where can I find recording of this? I think that's a question Jatin will answer. Okay, the recordings will be updated on YouTube soon. How to work on CV? CV, I think that's something I spoke about in the Future X session as well. For preparing CVs, just keep in mind that you need to excel in whatever field you're doing. For example, in my CV, I was from an IT background. I had research projects, research papers in AI. I did a research. I had a research paper which combined AI and financial and finance. So those were the things that I did in undergrad. I had a couple of international internships and conferences, etc., to back up my candidature. So I think just excel in whatever you're doing. Uh, so I, so in consulting in general, if you want to check whether your CV is good enough or not, you need to check for spikes. Spikes are essentially things that stand out in your CV, and less than 5% of your batch will have it on their CV when you go to a B school. So, for example, if I was at IIM Ahmedabad, I had a spike because I had research papers in finance, which less than 5% of the batch had. So it was easily a spike for me. For example, I had a 9.5 plus in GPA, which is easily a spike because less than 5% of the batch had it at the point of time, my admission at the time when we send our CVs across to the MBB firms. So ensure that whatever you have, uh, so for someone who's asked me whether MOOCs work, so I don't have a lot of idea about MOOCs, but if you have an achievement which you feel less than 5% of the people who are applying with you for the firm will have, then it's a great, good enough achievement. If it's not, if say 30 or 40% of people will have, then it's an average achievement. And if, for example, if it's if it's a online course that you've done, which 80% or 90% of people can have, then probably it's not something that will help you get in.
Okay, Ishwar, I had like a personal question I wanted to ask. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like, is there any best practices you'd like to share as to what kind of questions and should not be posted during like a consulting interview?
Come again, what kind of questions?
What kind of questions should not be posted during the consulting interview? Like any sort of questions which should be refrained from.
Okay, in case to think, I haven't really thought of this question before. If there's some questions which should not be asked, I mean, don't ask questions which make you look silly. Don't ask questions which are very obvious. I mean, it's a crime to ask a question which has been answered before. It just shows that you have not been listening to the interviewer very carefully. Because an interview tends to give a lot of information at different points of time, and the interviewer might feel irritated if you're asking them the same question and again and again. If the interviewer has already answered your question, so don't repeat your questions. Uh, Apart from that, if you have a genuine question, ask it. It's okay. I mean, even if it's not a great question, if it helps you solve your case, it's good enough. If it helps you prevent a mistake or if it helps you from making a big blunder, it's okay. So I mean, so just don't go for very off questions, but uh, if you really feel that it'll help you solve the case, ask it.
Okay,
Okay, like
before
research papers, what else do we do to get in the spike, especially during this time of COVID? I think that's a difficult question to answer, particularly this time because most of the opportunities are closed right now. You what you can simply do is you can maybe you can develop a portfolio. Maybe you can work remotely for consult company. A very good thing to do might be, for example, if you do something right now in the time for the crisis, for example, you can start your own website on Wix that will help people keep a track of uh, for your own locality, that will help them keep a track of the cases in the locality, or how they can ask for grocery, etc. And then maybe, sorry, I think I got this. Was saying was that maybe you can create a website that will help your neighbors, etc., understand what kind of what's the situation around. Maybe you can develop some KPI dashboards on Tableau, etc. Maybe you can learn something and make a practical experience out of it, and uh, then promote it, take it to different platforms, get an authentication, uh, having say a government body or having a organization stamp your work would add a lot of credibility to your project and sell it more when you're there in front of the interviewer. So that's something that I'll suggest you to do right now. How do we land an internship in the field of financial consulting at this time? uh, right now, it's, to be honest, not sounding discouraging, but firms are indeed holding on to their hiring right now. In fact, they're delaying joinings as well because they're not certain about how the future holds for them right now. So it might be a little difficult, but firms will not stop hiring. Simply, you need to keep in what you need to keep in mind is that hiring will always be there, but it will. The only difference from before and now would be that the better candidates be lifted off more easily, and the average one might have to work more hard to get into these firms. So make your CV stand out. Make your have some spikes in your CV that will compel the firms to give you an interview, and do excellent case prep to ensure that you're able to convert that. Because in difficult times, you need to be more competitive for sure. 2 minutes are left, so I'll just take this last question. Can volunteering work with very renowned NGO counter strike? I mean, if you've done something really standing out, for example, I did a lot of work in the field of SDGs, which had stamps of the likes of Government of India, World Bank, and major international organizations, etc. I mean that UN, etc. That really helped stand out. But if it's something that other people can get, and a problem with a lot of NGO work these days is that people tend to get fake certificates and simply pass it off as genuine, which really unfortunately has decreased the credibility of others. But have good organizations stamp it out, have having major names to back up your claim will ensure that the firms take note of your achievements so far. Yeah, I
Okay,
think
guys. So
that's
okay,
yeah. Go
so
ahead.
no, I was just pointing out that only 1 minute is left now. So anyone on the seats who have any questions left to be asked, you're more than encouraged to do it now. Or let's just wrap it up by first of all thanking you, Ishwar, for coming out and taking out the time to talk to the users, talk to me, and just giving awesome insights into consulting and case studies. Thank you so much for it.
Great. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. You can always maybe ask guys in the chat board if you have more consulting related doubts, and maybe I can come for something else later. And apart from that, you can
Definitely,
reach
definitely.
out to me on LinkedIn as well. Great. Thanks. Best of luck.
Always, always a pleasure to have you here, Ishwar. Thank you so much.